Good luck.
Hello and welcome everyone to our webinar. I'm Kelsey Goss, the Module Supply Chain Research Analyst with WoodMackenzie, and today we are joined by Ryan Simpson, the Head of Product Marketing, and Doug Broach, Business Development Manager from Trina Solar, to discuss the current PV supply chain and policy landscape, and to introduce TrinaPro, Trina's smart energy solution to help manage risks and improve system LCOE and power gains. We will be allocating time at the end of the presentation for Q&A, so please feel free to submit any questions you have using the Q&A box on the left side of your screen. And you also have access to each presenter's bio under the Q&A box under Event Resources. So I'll begin with a brief overview of the various factors contributing to the upstream and downstream supply chain complications, beginning with the rising commodity and raw material costs leading to increased module prices as a result of the pandemic-driven labor shortages and reduced utilization rates, along with a slow rebound from the pandemic effects, exacerbated transportation complications and costs, and a need for transparent supply chain traceability. That compounded with the rising supply chain costs are the various policy uncertainties affecting both the upstream and downstream players, including the potential extension of the 201 tariff, the introduction of the WRO, the potential for the expansion of the anti-dumping and countervailing duty to include countries in Southeast Asia, the potential ITC step down, and the perhaps more optimistic tax credit to incentivize domestic manufacturing. And additionally, the industry is seeing variations in wafer sizes and module form factors, which is contributing to downstream uncertainties in LCOE, product availability, and system designs. But nevertheless, downstream demand has sustained in every market and amid potential project delays, and further putting pressure on the upstream component supply as the safe harbored module stock has been allocated for short-term projects. And yet, even amid the supply chain policy and policy woes, module manufacturers are continuing to push forward with the larger format modules and higher power classes. WoodMackenzie believes that larger format modules will have greater than 50% market share by 2022, while the average utility scale power class grows beyond the 600 watt threshold. And furthermore, manufacturers are striving for efficiency gains and even higher power classes through transitioning from P-type to N-type polysilicon and introducing updated cell technologies beyond the mainstream PERC. And here at WoodMackenzie, we provide industry insights through multiple product offerings. And these products, relative specifically to supply chain and system costs, include the PV Pulse, which is a monthly publication and provides supply chain pricing forecasts, manufacturing capacity data, and technology trends. The Global PV Supply Briefing, which is a quarterly publication providing more nuance and insights to the PV Pulse data. We also have the PV System Pricing Report. It's a biannual report including hardware and soft costs, historical and forecasted cost breakdowns for residential, commercial, and utility scale PV systems. The PV Inverter Report as well, which is also biannual and provides market share and segmented forecasts for global and regional shipments and pricing. And we also have some upcoming publications to include an insight on the AD/CVD extension, which is hoping to be published by September 20th. And then we also have an upcoming module technology deep dive report, which will be released in early November 2021. And if you have any questions about our product offerings here at WoodMac, feel free to reach out to me. And without further ado, I will pass the baton over to Ryan Simpson with Trina Solar.
Well, thank you, Kelsey. I appreciate it. Very good wrap up there about the things that are going on in the module area of business and that, and in the industry. Today, folks, I'm going to talk a little bit about where Trina is with that module technology, where we're going, and how the policy and certain parts of importation are affecting some of those decisions in that, and also try to explain a little bit more about what the next steps are in that before we turn over to Doug. So my first slide I'd like to kind of showcase here is, talking to that point about improving the overall efficiencies and the wattages of modules in general. So Trina has taken it upon itself to really advance the R&D efforts of many of the modules that we supply to North America and to the world in all the different segments of residential, commercial, and utility. One of the technology differences that we have adopted is that we're looking at the using the 210 millimeter cell technology, which has a much greater path and roadmap than other power classes of cell technology. So you will see here in this graph, we have representation of residential products using our new Vertex line of 210 millimeter products, all the way to commercial and then to utility as well, and introducing much higher wattages in the future as well. And below that is currently the industry average of where many of our other competitors are listed at. So today in North America, we are in developing and introducing the 550 watt product, and next year will be the 600 to 670 watt product as well. And it's not just about higher wattages, it's also about better efficiencies, better output. Your balance of system savings also is going to be reduced heavily, between a half a penny to 1.5 cents a watt, by utilizing these types of products. And then looking at just the historical roadmap of where products have gone, Trina started in the U.S. over 12 years ago, and since then, it was a shade under 300 watt type modules that were in place in the U.S. at that point. And you can kind of see it's been a real steady growth of wattage bins over the last 10, 12 years, to the point that we have adopted new technologies. Before we were working with less bus bars, a smaller type of cell, less powerful cell, then migrated over to PERC, mono PERC, and now working on the new large cell, like I just explained in the last slide. So you can see how that ramp up with wattages and efficiencies are starting to spike now. In the future, we'll be looking at and introducing potentially N-type products. Right now we have P-type products. N-type will allow for another 30 to 50 more watts per product based upon the same footprint. So you can see there with the launches of our new Vertex modules just last year and this year, what we're introducing. Those are global launches, and North America lags just a little bit behind that. You can see where we're going with much of our products for mass production, and that these decisions have been made based upon a lot of different factors with supply chain and with policy in mind, just to make sure that we have the right product for the customers in the marketplace. So looking at policy and that and lobbying updates. So one of the things that Trina does is we sit on many of the different boards with SEIA and the lobbying groups to get a front row seat to what's happening with different initiatives when it comes to governmental policies and that. There are three main ones that are happening today that are affecting the entire industry. There is a circumvention petition that's been released as of last month, and I'll talk a little bit more in depth about that and what that means. The WRO, which is basically a restraining order on products coming in for importation and that has something to do with forced labor, and that I'll touch on that as well. And then Section 201 extension is the last one that's happening in the marketplace today. So looking at the circumvention petition, what is that? So this is essentially an anonymous group of other manufacturers that has put together a petition to the Department of Commerce, and they filed it last month, basically claiming that all products that come from 3 different countries of Malaysia, Vietnam, and Thailand should have a AD/CVD type of rate for any imports into the U.S. So there is a lot of back and forth right now with this, as far as the SIA and the team fighting this, and what the petition is looking like. Basically, there's 45 days for the Department of Commerce to make a decision, so we will know by the end of September whether they're going to adopt this new duty rate to any importers. But unfortunately, it's been targeted towards ourselves and a couple of other key Tier 1 competitors of ours. And so we're all working very hard on this. SIA has signed a letter to the Department of Commerce, as well as a few very high-level utilities and developers, basically explaining that this is a targeted attempt, and that there is suspicion that the anonymous set of companies also have manufacturing in those countries as well. And so they are looking and asking the Department of Commerce to unmask those companies so that we can understand who they are and have a better understanding of why they're targeting certain companies. So just hold on, keep your seatbelt fastened for this. This will get a little bit more interesting. We still have a couple more weeks before we can get the final decision here, but it will be something that I think will probably be in Kelsey's report as well, that she's going to be releasing here very soon. Then looking at the Section 201 extension, if everyone remembers, about 3.5 years ago, the U.S. Trade Representative Association put together Section 201 extension against certain modules coming into the country from other places. And so it had a step-down tariff drop each year of 5%, starting at 30%, then going to 25, 20, and 15. President Trump had put into a presidential proclamation last October, which kind of halted a lot of the what was trying to happen at that time was a bifacial exclusion to the 201 extension, and then that changed the tariff to 18%. So if everything holds true, the 201 tariff will go away on February 7th of next year. But unfortunately, there's a few companies that are listed here that have filed petitions, joint petitions together in some cases, looking at trying to extend the 201 tariff in a couple different ways, either through minimal liberalization and no change to the TRQ. That's basically the tariff quota for any kind of cells that come in to the U.S. without a duty assigned to them. There's a certain number that can come in, so they're either looking at not changing that, or they're looking at increasing that TRQ to accommodate more cells to come in for local manufacturing. So you can see there on the right, there's a timeline of events. It's like anything else that has to do with the government and policy and legal parts of it is, you know, there's different parts where you submit, you answer, and then you go through different preliminary hearings, and it's a back and forth ping pong match for a while. The real part of this will start getting interesting around November. That's when all the hearings and the proposals have been completed. At that point, just like what happened about 3.5 years ago, or actually about it was more than 4 years ago. There's the 4 commissioners that sit on the USTR, and they will come up with recommendations of what will happen with this extension. Some will agree or not agree with some of the petitions that are put in there. It then goes in December to President Biden, and then he can do one of 3 things. He can take one of the recommendations from the USTR. He can tell the USTR to go back and study it for a few months and come back with a new proposal, or he can make his own determination on what to do with it, or he can kill it. So it's really, again, it's a crapshoot of what might happen here in December as well when it comes to this extension. Again, we don't know if there will be changes to the 201 as far as what the tariff amounts would be if they are extended, and then we also don't know for how long, not until we get to about November after all the hearings are done there. And the last thing that I'd like to touch on is looking at how things are happening right now in the world with supply chain, forced labor initiatives, and actions. There's a lot of companies under scrutiny right now because they have suspect issues in that with forced labor. There's a couple of senators that have proposed some new legislation when it comes to that. One of the things that Trina does is we produce every year what's called a CSR. This is a corporate social responsibility. Most big companies have this. It's a great Bible that talks about, carbon offset emissions, what we're doing for volunteer work or to give certain benefits away for certain companies and that. And also in here is a section that talks about our supply chain. That there's a link here I left here also if you'd like to download it. It's on our Trina Solar website. But if you go to page 31, it talks very clearly about our CSRs when it pertains to supply chain. So every year we have yearly audits from a third-party French company that comes in and does a lot of scrutiny and looks at our company and how we buy things, who we buy it from. We have a whole management system when it comes to supply chain and that. And so, they go through, they look at our ethics, they look at how we're buying, who we're buying from and that. And so I highlighted, because there's a lot of words on this page, but I highlighted a couple of sections from this page 31. The first one on the left there is, during this reporting period where they did the audits and that, there was 0 labor force incidents from any of our warehouses, from our manufacturing sites, from our suppliers. So that's validated there. And then obviously within our supply chain assessments and that, the audit covers many things: business ethics, health and safety for employees, like I said, environmental protections against certain kinds of items that might be causing health concerns, but also is in there, the prohibition of any child labor, forced labor, or labor abuse having to do with any kinds of parts of our supply chain or our manufacturing. So again, this is a very critical part of the discussion that's happening with the WRO. Today, there is a wait and see period with Customs Border Patrol to see what paperwork is now going to be needed to supply to them so that any shipments can get passed right through. So, as of 2012, there was a forced labor initiative put in place by the Customs Border Patrol, and we've complied with that for the last 10 years and had no issues whatsoever. So I would suspect that we're also going to be able to comply moving forward with whatever the paperwork is that they're going to be asking for and be able to move forward with that. One of the things too also is we're working with SIA, and we're on many of the committees there, especially the traceability committee for supply chain. So we're working with a couple of companies there to help customers understand how supply chain works and how we work with supply chain. So hopefully that was a little educational for you. I will now turn it over to Doug Broach, who will talk a little bit more about Trina Tracker, TrinaPro, and like I said, buckle up, it's a solar coaster.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Kelsey. Exciting times for sure. There's a lot going on. As a 20-year veteran of the solar industry, my perspective is the solar coaster is an ongoing adventure. And I know right now it feels a little bit chaotic out there. And this slide is up here to remind everybody to have some fun with it, to remember that there's ups and downs and everything in life, and let's continue to make the best of it. Looking at other factors and other things that sort of are directly impacting the PV utility scale marketplace, in particular, global shipping has become, a major concern, and is introducing a lot of heartache for everyone, not just manufacturers, but obviously anybody building a solar project right now. Most surely is aware of how much more expensive both domestic and international shipping is. And Trina, as a global provider of renewable energy technologies for around the world, we contract large quantities of shipments annually. We have supply agreements with most of the major carriers, names that you would see on the sides of the big shipping containers. And still, when you have something like the last couple of years kind of happened to us all, it's confusing for everyone. And what I can say about our team and the way Trina approaches these challenges is that we monitor closely everything that's going on, and we maintain a weekly update with our customers and with all of our sales teams. And the point of that is just that, this is an ongoing crisis, and we're all working together to achieve the success of solar power plants being built around the world. And we just have to keep an eye on these things. Of course, part of the reason that we have a shipping crisis at all is related to our global pandemic over the last couple of years. And this is not over with. It's not by any means in the rearview mirror yet. This is still ongoing. And we have to be diligent, not only in taking care of ourselves, but also just to understand that these disruptions to supply chains, to the delivery of goods, whether it be raw materials or finished product, it's going to be continuing on for the foreseeable, short-term future. I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell you how long, but it's certainly impacting everyone in a variety of ways. So maybe since we're talking about all this, we can talk about project risks in general. Utility scale projects, have a lot of hurdles to sort of jump in order to be successfully constructed and built. It starts out with, feasibility study and the determination of bankability and project financing. And that's great. Of course, when you have, procurement risks, or you have logistical risks, raw material price increasing because of, supply and demand issues, the project economics can be impacted. Financing can be disrupted. So just right off the bat, just the basic fundamentals of getting a project off the ground can be challenged. And then as you move down the list, or you look at the project maturity cycle, you need to go through design studies, component integration, then you get involved with procurement, and then the delivery excitement, I guess is what you call it right now, or maybe chaos. And then the installation in the field, of course, is important. And it's also subject to, things like a pandemic or delivery of materials in an appropriate time frame. And so even the usual tasks are affected by the challenges that we're facing right now. As a manufacturer and as a provider of utility scale solutions, we are involved and pay attention to every one of these details, even project commissioning, the operational risks, performance risk in terms of LCOE and product warranties. All these things are key to our focus on providing our customer a better experience. And so for Trina, as a global company with 20 plus years in the industry, we have a tremendous history of experience as a manufacturer, starting in 1997 and continuing throughout. We've made, I guess you'd call it, a little bit of a turn in our focus. We're still a tier one, top tier manufacturer of solar modules globally. But a couple of years ago, 2018, we launched TrinaPro, and a short time after that, we acquired a racking company that we've since branded as Trina Tracker, and that has given us the capability to not only see into more of the core competencies, if you will, of a utility scale project, but it's given us the ability to work on project integration, optimization of components. And now, as a manufacturer, we deliver and can deliver modules and trackers manufactured by us, completely under our control. A year later, just a year ago, roughly, we started our Trina Storage division focused on energy storage. And so we're bringing together solutions and technologies that will help us advance the utility scale marketplace. And that's what Trina is really all about, is providing advancement in R&D and product development, and in the manufacturing and delivery of renewable energy project solutions that get us all to a better economic value for renewables. So as a global company, we're all over the world. We have over 15,000 employees, so we're everywhere. We'd love to talk to you, whether we're involved with you on a sales level or an engineering or manufacturing, supply chain, whatever it is. Trina is a very active participant in this space, and we would love to be engaged with you. Just recently, we completed our Vertex Super Factory, which is exclusively dedicated to manufacturing modules using the 210 millimeter cells that Ryan mentioned earlier. Super exciting, and we're now looking at potentially our global capacity by the end of this year to be close to 50 gigawatts. So we're definitely on a large scale of things. My focus is on TrinaPro, which within Trina is a solutions-based group that offers the integration or all-in-one packaging of modules, inverters, and trackers to help bring together an optimized project solution, focus of which is to lower your client's LCOE, and also to bring forward a highly optimized system. And so we have engineers, we have designers, obviously manufacturing for modules and trackers, and we have strategic partners on the inverter side. All of us focused on bringing together, like I said, a highly optimized package solution for utility scale projects. And then we add onto that additional support and services. So why are we getting involved with this business in this way? Part of it is because, as a leading provider of modules, we're already recognized globally as a highly bankable provider of technologies. We have brought the combination of our trackers and our modules together through some bankability studies with DNV-GL. So we're doing a lot to sort of add to the sustainable growth of the renewable business. And it's also really important that when you're navigating these complicated times, whether it be political or COVID related or whatever, it's great to have a large company on your side helping to support your process. TrinaPro specifically, what are we about? Well, we're about providing our customer a variety of benefits. We start off with design support. Obviously, a single point of procurement helps to streamline the process. Our components are highly integrated and they're designed to work together from the start. We provide a high level of project management and logistical support and transparency to our customers, so that as we're building one of these utility scale projects with TrinaPro, there's just constant communication and a high level of awareness about what's going on. And then we have technologies like tracking systems and monitoring systems that help to provide even better intelligence and control to the overall result. And again, the goal being to lower the LCOE and bring about the best CapEx and project solution that we can as a team. So our teamwork approach is about also looking at engineering services, layouts and optimization of sites, and working with slopes, and helping our customers to identify the right types of components, the right type of engineering approach to achieve the best combination of performance and functionality for every project. So again, as a solutions provider, we're still principally a manufacturer. So our approach with TrinaPro is about being your partner. It's about basically engaging with you at an early stage of project development and working through the details together, helping to peel back the onion and find just the right combination of features that will get us both a successful project that's financeable, bankable, buildable, and of course, getting the right types of returns. On the tracker side of our business, we're very excited about this. The manufacturer that we acquired a few years ago had been in the industry for over a decade building trackers, so it wasn't like a brand new company. But just in the last couple of years, we've built over 5 gigawatts of projects. We have single axis trackers and fixed tilt systems, but the principal focus, as the name implies, is on our Trina Tracker product line. And integrating our own tracker algorithms, we can show performance enhancements. We can show additional wind and snow load resistance. So we have a very stable platform with a multi-point drive system that enables the reduction in the number of piles for an individual project. And again, the piles are the vertical supports that go into the ground. So as we have engineered and advanced this product, we've begun to realize some real significant gains. And at the core of our Trina Tracker product line is our spherical bearing support system, which is the top of the column that supports the tracker. There's a spherical bearing in our tracker product, which is a patented design, and it allows for a great deal of site installation flexibility, as well as really enhanced performance to the overall installation of the project. So again, innovation, new technologies, and providing teamwork to our customers is really what we're all about. On the software side of things, I mentioned our Trina Tracker algorithm called SuperTrack, and it's a hybrid tracking algorithm that achieves, both the traditional, sun tracking, if you will, geospatial tracking technologies, but we also look at bifaciality and at off-axis or indirect diffuse radiation sources. So there's an enhanced result that comes from using our tracker algorithms with our trackers, and we've demonstrated through field testing, several percentage increases in performance overall in our systems. So talking about our tracker products, again, this more specifically, because this is the part that goes in the ground, that sort of sets the design framework for any utility scale project that you're of large scale. We have 2 tracker product families. We have our Vanguard tracker, which is a 2P tracker, meaning that it's 2 modules in portrait. It's designed to capture, maximum energy performance. It allows for a great deal of flexibility in terms of ground coverage ratio. And so I think that, for projects that are, challenged in any way, the Vanguard tracker is really a great solution to look at. And then we have our Agile, which is our 1P tracker, which is a multi-row tracker design that sort of looks like your traditional, multi-row tracker concept, but it's every 2 rows operate independently. So there's more adjustability and a variety of different configurations. And again, we're looking at like 120 modules per row, even for our very large module formats. So we're able to achieve a lot of power per row. And again, these are all economics that result in reduced installation costs and ultimately helps to bring together a better solution for our customers. So TrinaPro is about providing not only our technology and our products, but a procurement solution as well. So we provide a one-stop point of procurement that includes modules, trackers, inverters, support services, and that kind of thing. And part of the reason that we're doing that is we're looking at the stack of all the participants in the supply chain, and we're saying, look, the number of participants can be 10, 12 vendors or more involved in a traditional supply agreement for all the different components and services in a tracker business, or a utility scale tracker project. And from our perspective, we're seeing an opportunity to reduce that down to perhaps just 2 vendors. And so that reduction in the number of participants means that there's better control and communications amongst all of the people involved. And it also helps to lower costs and sort of trim some of the fat, if you will, of the various participants. And that's really key to moving forward and getting the returns on investments we all want from what truly are more complicated site locations. And also another part of our service is not just providing the hardware, but we're looking at the installation challenges that exist from the standpoint of whether sites need specialized assembly, certainly geotechnical and pull-out testing, and some of the things that go along with traditional utility scale projects. We can offer those services as an add-on or a la carte through various third-party partners that we have. But in every project that we supply, we will provide commissioning and provide support in the field for the installation, the assembly of the components that we're providing. And so this is the value add part of our solution, is our participation in not just the design and the delivery of the material, but also in the actual installation and assembly. And again, these are services that we're providing as needed. And so some customers are fully capable of doing everything themselves, and others need help. And we're here just to be a flexible and key partner to the success of the project. Without a question, LCOE, levelized cost of energy, is one of the key focuses of any energy plant. And we understand how important that is to every market in the world. Here in the U.S., no less so. And so we do a lot and keep that perspective of LCOE and project returns in mind throughout the entire life cycle of the project, from the early design approach all the way through to its delivery schedules and commissioning of those systems. I want to point out that some of the performance risks that come up related to this are issues that are important to address. And one of the exciting things that we offer with TrinaPro is a performance guarantee that goes a bit beyond just the standard product warranties. And so, if interested, we could talk about that in other details, but offline. But the thing that we're looking at doing is bringing together the combination of product warranties and guarantees of performance, as well as additional secondary performance guarantees to help mitigate those early project risks and get the projects and the construction and the operational systems all up and online efficiently. And as I mentioned earlier, we have an energy storage business, which we're very focused on launching. It's very active in Europe right now, but we're also doing that here in the U.S. And merging energy storage with solar and renewables is really a great combination. And again, focusing on LCOE and project economics is a part of the partnership level service that we want to provide with TrinaPro. So that's a quick review of TrinaPro, our Trina Tracker business, our Trina storage efforts. And as you can see, Trina is active in a variety of different areas of the supply chain, not just modules, but that is our key focus and our primary business globally. Really appreciate your time, and love to have an opportunity to answer questions or whatever.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ryan and Doug, for your insightful presentations. We do have a few questions, so I'll start with questions specific to TrinaPro. So for you, Doug, the first one being, how many megawatts does Trina have in TrinaPro installations across the globe currently?
Yeah, right. So I touched on that briefly, but we have currently for TrinaPro, so since 2018, essentially, we've got a little over 5 gigawatts. So that's 5,000 megawatts of projects around the world, several hundred megawatts here in the U.S., a lot in Europe, a lot in the Middle East, South America, Australia, so all over the world. And these are projects and sites that are fully operational and successfully constructed, happening now.
Great, thanks. And then another one. So this question is asking if the TrinaPro stays up to the inverter station or if it sees all the way to the main collector substation.
Yeah, I think, that question really reflects, the system architecture and the design of the project. But, for TrinaPro, we're involved with the modules, the inverters, the trackers, the system operation of the mechanical components. And where our services and sort of monitoring stops is at the exit point from the inverters to the collector or substation. Almost every project is going to have its own sort of substation or control SCADA that's a part of the plant operating requirements for interconnection to the utility. And we don't really get engaged in that part of it, but our control systems are designed to be controlled by those SCADA operators. And we even have, our own sort of tracker SCADA system to help, monitor the hardware parts that we've provided. So yeah, there's an interface there, but for TrinaPro and for our solutions, we sort of stop at the substation interconnection voltage inverters platform.
Okay, great, thank you. And then some more questions geared a little more around policy. So these ones will be for you, Ryan. So we'll begin with what is the current tariff amount and how is this passed on to customers?
Well, there's a Section 201 tariff right now on all products, and that is currently it's at 18%. And it's about to drop to 0% next year if it doesn't get extended. Typically, it is just a pass through to the customers. It depends how they want to bring the products in. If we're paying for all the duties and that DDP, then it's passed on them, where they can assume it through FOB or CIF or something like that. So it just depends on the relationship, the agreement, what the product is, where it's going. So but it's usually a pass through, to be quite honest.
Okay, got it. And then around the WRO, so this one's a little bit long, just giving some context. So it's stating that the WRO seems to assume that all labor is forced labor and pertains to any item coming out of the Xinjiang region. And it also seems to say that any and all parts of the supply chain, including any labor, are subject to the investigation. And so it's asking, how will Trina or other suppliers prove unequivocally that no part of your supply chain touches the Xinjiang region to avoid delays or impacts? And then it says just adhering to existing laws, it doesn't seem that this will satisfy the WRO requirements. So I guess the main question just being, how do you plan to prove unequivocally that your supply chain is pure and free of relation to Xinjiang, specifically the Hoshine supplier?
Yeah, great and long question there. But so, we've been doing this for a number of years, like I indicated. There are certain records on the books from customs and that require us to supply certain documents at time of importation and that. It's basically a wait and see to find out what does customs want from us in order to prove that unequivocally. It's not that we can't do it. It's just we need to know what we need to supply. We have a whole team at our headquarters that does nothing but supply chain and audits and everything else. So, we've made it a mission part of our company to make sure that we don't have those types of problems in that. So it's, right now we're like everyone else, every other competitor that does any kind of importation, it's just waiting for customs to give us whatever that green light is of paperwork that they require in order to do any kinds of release of WROs. So it's not something I can answer today. We're all kind of just waited with bated breath to, listen to what the customs has to do. And, it's the federal government, so they take their time, and so we have to wait. So that's all I can say at this point, unfortunately.
Got it. Yeah, just a little more clarity coming from the CBP, pending their clarity to answer that question. And then just a follow-up to that was, what type of delays or lead time increases do you anticipate from the WRO, and also any cost increases for if you need to switch your supply chain to free from the Hoshine supplier, what ballpark may customers be working with as far as cost increase and lead time increases?
Well, with supply chain, we have no relationship with Hoshine, so we don't have to worry about that. We already have long-term standing supply agreements with other reputable companies that have none of this labor problems. So honestly, there's a lot of moving parts when it comes to the cost of materials, logistics, the exchange rates. There's a lot of changes every single day. And so trying to predict costing right now is a little difficult for anyone, for any company. So, as far as the impact, as far as how it will cause any delays in that, it's something that we're working, many months, almost into years into the future as far as supply agreements and manufacturing and that, and working with logistics companies to make sure that containers get to North America in a timely fashion. So it's a science, right? That's why you want to pick a tier one company that's been doing this for a while and be able to actually maneuver through these, hard parts of the process and that. So is there going to be a delay? There could be. It all depends on customs and what they want to do. Do I have a crystal ball of what that delay would be? No, I don't. But, this has happened before in other industries. If you do a little bit of research on other types of supplies, with computers and with aluminum and things like that, you'll see that sometimes it takes a couple months or a few months in order to kind of shake it all out. So based upon the history of how customs kind of operates, again, it's the federal government, you have to kind of just wait it out for maybe a month or two or a little bit longer. But there is no prediction yet. SEIA is working hand in hand with all of these different departments of the government, even with the customs, to try to ascertain a little bit more clarity for the entire industry. So I would, if you get a chance and any of the audience members are not part of the SEIA informational kind of feeds and that, I would sign up with SEIA, because you'll be able to get some really good information that way as well.
Great, thanks, Ryan. And I'll bounce back over to Doug. A new question came in. So it's stating, Trina seems to be a vertically integrated company. So in a high level, could you explain the typical work scope of the Trina and utility scale photovoltaic and storage projects?
Yeah, thank you, Kelsey. That's a great question. So Trina is vertically integrated. We like to start with early project development and engage with the design and engineering and owners' representatives to lay out the project and get a design concept that checks all the boxes for performance and bankability, return on investment, best use of land, et cetera, et cetera. But when it comes to the true scope of work, for us, it begins with the commitment to manufacture and supply, the modules, the inverters on the project, and the trackers, along with the foundations or piles for those trackers. And then we fully commission all those components. So each component that we provide as a part of our solution includes commissioning, field support services, installation training, that kind of thing. Because what we're really all about is taking the core components of these projects, energy plants, and delivering that as a bundle service that includes, the support, the engineering, the in-field construction supervision is necessary to sort of get the job done, professionally and on time. And there are other components to the project. Obviously, there's other engineering services, other field services, like geotechnical, et cetera, that we can call in third-party partners to help perform if necessary. But we find in the U.S. especially that most of those services are well covered by our developer and EPC partners. So for us, it's about providing the core components of the system and providing the technical support, the delivery, and the commissioning of that hardware.
Great, thank you. still have some time here, so just a couple more questions. Going back to Ryan, so why do you think that the 210 G12 wafer will be the technology of choice of the future over the 182 M10 wafer size?
Yeah, good question. It's not a roulette wheel where we try to figure it out here. We actually did a lot of research the last 4 or 5 years on this. We thought about the 166. We thought about the 182. We looked at it. We looked at our current footprints of manufacturing. What does that mean for costs and that? What we found was, in looking at just how wafers are put together as far as for sizes for different industries, but including also for the solar industry, the 210 seem to hit the upper limits of what we can actually do with wafers, with the manufacturers and that. It also gives a not only can translate to much more higher wattage, higher efficiency module, because you have different technology within the cell that you can do with different kinds of underlapping, overlapping, and then more bus bars and things like that. But it also gives us a longer roadmap for at least 5 to 10 years to actually build out a line of products using that technology. And what does that do? That allows customers to purchase at lower cost, because we're amortizing those costs of manufacturing over a much longer period, and being able to pay for things a lot quicker that way. There's also, besides the different layouts and things like that of the module and the cells and everything, one of the other things that we did is we also, we're all in this collective unit together, this whole food chain. So there's inverters, there's trackers, like we have our own trackers, Doug has explained. And so we've worked with all the key partners that are out there in this development process. And we looked at LCOE analysis and everything else. And really, when it came down to it, the 210 seemed to be the best when it came to LCOE, the best as far as attaching to any type of tracker, including our own, as far as installation practices and things like that. So we worked very hard with many of our industry partners in that in order to develop this. So there was a lot of thought process in this. And I invite any of the audience members to download. We do have a new Vertex white paper that kind of discusses a lot of these technologies as far as why we chose 210 and that. That's something that we can supply, as well as a white paper also on the LCOE analysis. So, but those, I could go, that could be a whole webinar series, to be quite honest, Kelsey. But those are the highlights of why we chose 210.
Great, thank you. Maybe a potential webinar in the future. And then just the last question for you, Ryan. How is Trina staying ahead of the competition in wattage and module technology?
Yeah, so I think I showed that on one of the first slides, and that it might have been the second slide. But the industry average right now is hovering around the 550 to 580 range, and like I said, we've introduced that product as of a year ago, that size, and we're now launching a global campaign here in the very near future of our Vertex 21 series, which is actually in the 670 watt range. So, it's sometimes there's a lot of companies that do a lot of bragawatts and say, well, we have a large module in that, but is it really commercially, feasible, in the manufacturing world? And so, we are launching that and be manufacturing right off our lines, a 670 watt plus module with different bins and that moving forward here in the next few months. So by far that will be the largest commercially available module in the world that people can, developers and everyone can buy at that point. So that's on the utility side. Obviously on the residential side, we're adapting to a low 400 watt module now for the residential segment of the market as well. So we're trying to accommodate a lot of different segments, a lot of different parts of the world, and become more of a leader when it comes to the module technology and the wattage technology race, I guess.
All right, great. Yeah, exciting times for sure. Well, that wraps up the questions. So I would like to thank Ryan and Doug for all of your insights and your time, and the audience for your participation. And just to remind the audience, if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to reach out to Ryan or Doug or myself. And also, if you're interested in any of our WoodMackenzie product offerings, we'd be happy to talk with you about that. And of course, Trina would be happy to talk further about their technology and their product offerings as well. So with that, I will wrap up the webinar, and thank you, everybody, and stay safe.